But the deaths didn't stop there, because now we have to talk about what happened after the hour of joy. After the massacre, two people were still alive inside the factory, Jessica Newman and Preston Willard. They hid inside a room in the labs and managed to survive for 10 days. But eventually, Preston was captured by Chum Chompkins and taken to the prototype. Instead of killing him, the prototype turned Preston into a twisted experiment similar to Catbee. Then one day later, the prototype found Jessica, and this time, he killed her. Now, we have to jump 10 years forward, because after all those events, the player finally enters the factory, and that's when the real deaths inside the story begin, starting with Chapter 1. In Chapter 1, we fight Huggy Wuggy. At first, we thought Huggy died after falling into the abyss, but later in the story, we learn that Huggy somehow survived the fall. Then we move to Chapter 2, where things start getting worse. After the musical memory game, Mommy Longlegs kills Bunzo Bunny for failing to stop the player. Then after the Whack-A-Wuggy game, Mommy kills all the mini Huggies for the same reason. But at the end of Chapter 2, the player finally defeats Mommy Longlegs. Her body is then dragged away by the prototype. Then we reach Chapter 3, where even more characters die. First, the player kills Miss Delight. Then we see Dog Day die as well. Then we have Bunzo's toy version, which was killed off-screen by Catnap. And then finally, Catnap himself dies. But Catnap's death is very interesting, because he wasn't killed by the player, he was killed by the prototype, who stabbed him through the mouth and dragged his body away. Then we reach Chapter 4, which has the highest number of experiment deaths in the series. First, we have Pianosaurus, who was killed by Doughy while trying to save the player. Then we have Yarnaby, who was killed by the player during a chase sequence. His head gets stuck on a chain, and he eventually falls into a lava pit. Then we have Simon Smoketoy, who is also killed by the player under Dr. Harley Sawyer's orders. And finally, in Chapter 4, the player kills Dr. Harley Sawyer himself. Now, some people might say he returns in Chapter 5, but technically, the version we killed in Chapter 4 was the biological doctor. The one we see later is only a digital backup of his mind. But that's not the end of the deaths in Chapter 4, because during the Safe Haven explosion, dozens of small toys were destroyed. We don't know the exact number, but more than 40 toys died. This included 6 mini Kissy Missy toys, 4 Dog Day toys, and many others. And then at the end of Chapter 4, the player kills Doughy. He is frozen and then crushed to death by a massive hydraulic press. And then finally, we reach Chapter 5. In Chapter 5, several important experiments die. First, we have the Oodimals. Several of these wrong-side-out monsters are killed by the player, while others are crushed by the prototype. Then we have Lily Lovebraids. During the chase sequence, the player uses the pressure hand to drop a heavy metal cloud platform on her, crushing her. And then, at the end of the chapter, something even more shocking happens. Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy are both killed by the prototype. But there's one more important thing we need to talk about. Many experiments actually died before the player even entered the factory. In fact, 100 to 200 experiments may have died during that time. One of the biggest reasons was the Toy War. A massive conflict broke out between toys loyal to the prototype and toys who rebelled against him, led by Poppy and Doughy. At least 60 experiments were killed during this war. Then we have the deaths of the Smiling Critters. Nearly all of the bigger body's Smiling Critters were hunted